Good morning to you all. Welcome back to the Namaste Experience. And today we are going to have an experience. I'm a little bit hesitant and a little bit of excited to share a couple of these things because it requires a willingness to look closely and clearly at inner motivations and hidden desires that we hold on to, cling to, because somehow we think that it makes us who we are. Sometimes even the people that we enjoy uh, belittling, with the people that we enjoy suffering, there literally are groups in our own minds that we like to suffer, and we have to be willing to look deeply so we can discover all of those hidden grievances and then let them heal and dissolve. This is part of the mind training that we're engaged in. I know in my own life, I've been looking clearly, and I didn't realize this until as much as I did until a couple of days ago, that there is a group of people that I really, really do enjoy watching suffer. It's true. I do enjoy watching a particular group suffer, and that group is they're fans of the Green Bay Packers. Yes, I really, really enjoy it, especially, well, pretty much only when they play the Bears and they, at the end of the game, suffer so badly. I know that Penny and Larry are both laughing very hard last night because they, on Saturday, went out and watched the Bears and the Packers game, and it was one of those games where it was almost an impossible victory for the Bears. The Packers had it right there in their hands. The game was almost over. They were up by 10 points, and somehow the cardiac Bears were able to pull off a victory. And yesterday, I literally spent, I don't know, maybe an hour watching videos on YouTube of Packers fans suffering, watching the game, and then the terrible experience of losing. Now, obviously, this is kind of a joke, but it shows us something at the same time that there probably are other hidden places in our minds that we like to hold and relish in the suffering of others, not just the fans of a team that you've learned to not appreciate. I hope there are not too many Green Bay Packer fans in the room right now. But this mind training, the willingness to look within and to uncover hidden grievances is so important. We talk about politics sometimes, and we hold on to grievances about different parties, different people, and forget that everything that happens is exactly as it should. Every moment that springs forward is exactly as it needs to be. The people, the situations, the dramas, in order to teach us and remind us that there's only one voice for us to listen to, and that is the voice for God and the voice for love. In fact, right before session, I literally just opened up A Course in Miracles, and I came to this one line. Is it possible, even in this world, to hear only the voice for God and no other? Is it possible for me to love even the fans of a particular team in Wisconsin that I don't appreciate? Yes, it is possible. And it's interesting how even in our joking, of course, this is a joke, but oh, I can remember a time in my life when it wasn't a joke. I can remember a time in my life many years ago when I would be like those fans that I was watching the videos yesterday. And if the Packers beat the Bears, I was upset for days. This is how insane the egoic mind is, that we would latch onto a silly game and let it rule and determine our joy or not. So, once again, is it possible, even in this world, to hear only the voice for God and no other? In fact, Jesus says, it is the final lesson that I learned. Jesus had to learn this lesson. And God's sons are as equal as learners as they are as souls. So we're all here to learn the same lesson. Only love, only God, only now. So in looking at this, I also had a couple of lines come to me that I wanted to share that I think really merge with this quite well. The idea is to look at the impossible situation that we've created, to look clearly at the impossible situation that you've created without blinking. Look at it without blinking, and then you'll see what it you'll see it for what it really is. Nothing. Like, for example, the need for your team to win a particular game and for others to lose that game, that need that we sometimes have, it's nothing. It's clinging to nothingness. But that's what we do in our minds. So once again, look at the impossible situation you've created without blinking, and you'll see it for what it is. Nothing. And then, after you've done that, look at the inevitable experience of reality that God has created without turning away, and you'll see it for what it really is. Everything. You'll see it as everything. This is the difference between what you have willed and what God is constantly willing for you. To set aside all grievances, even the playful ones. Because even in those playful ones, there might be some hidden desire of suffering. Even in my desire to watch Packer fans suffer, I have to admit there's probably a little bit of feeling there. Like I really do enjoy that seeing them suffer because the Bears won. Mm. Anyway, so that being said, I was going through some old lessons that we've shared in the past, and I came across one that I thought would be very appropriate for this particular lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up here on the screen so you can all see it, and we'll just view it together. So this is from the Master Teacher Within series. So you can read along with me if you'd like. The joy that you're feeling right now is the result of you losing your need to hold your thoughts together or to view them in a sequential manner. Let's stop there for a moment. You're beginning to feel a consistent joy swelling up in you, whether you're aware of it or not. And many of you are becoming more and more aware of it. You're feeling this consistent joy welling up in you, because you're losing the need to hold your thoughts together. You didn't realize how much energy and focus it takes to hold grievances together, literally, or to see them in some kind of a sequential manner. You're getting to the point where the space between your thoughts is more important to you than the thoughts themselves. The space between words, the space between thoughts. This is where the real action is. Even the space between jokes or humor. Me telling a joke about the Green Bay Packers. There's space there that I can enter into, and in doing so, discover something so deep and profound about love. A second ago, that would have felt like death, and it would have been just not the death of anything that's actually real. It would have been the death of the unreality you've claimed until now. Doesn't that sound good? The death of the unreality that you've claimed until now. And until now, that's been very frightening. It's been very frightening to let go of fright. It's been very fearful to let go of fear. Here we go. Chris just asked me to make it a little bit bigger, so let me see if I can do that. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so once again, it's been very frightening to let go. You're afraid of losing yourself. That's why. You're afraid to let go of your grievances, or, say, in my case, to let go of my love of watching Packers fans suffer. After not every game. I don't want to see them suffer after every game. I just want to see them suffer after they lose to the Bears, right? So what we do in our mind is we hold off with I don't know how to say this. We don't want to have these be blanket statements. I just want it to be very specific. I just want them to suffer at a particular time and in a particular way. And that's the problem. Okay. That because I'm not willing to let go of a particular part of my own experience, which is that I am, in this case, a fan of the Chicago Bears. Always have been, always will be. And that's fine, but it doesn't have to be at the expense of the suffering of others. Because when we do that, what we're afraid of losing is ourselves. So let's continue. You were afraid of losing yourself, but your fear was the only thing blocking you from realizing, and here it is, from realizing that the you that you were afraid of losing was never real. The you that you were afraid of losing was never real. So, all the grievances that you hold, even the hidden ones or even the playful ones, none of that was real. They're all hiding places. They're all places where we can hide from the real lesson, which is that only love is real. And there's no suffering that's needed in any situation. Okay, continuing on. It was nothing more than the accumulation of separating attack thoughts. That's what you were afraid of losing. The accumulation of separating attack thoughts. But you can only see how insane that is when you look at it directly, without blinking or turning away. This is what the passage that I read, that I wrote, said. You have to look at this without blinking or turning away. And if you're willing to do that, you'll see it for what it really is: insane. You've been unwilling to do that until now. Why would you want to be an accumulation of separating attack thoughts when you can break free into heaven at any moment? That's a great question, isn't it? Why would you want to be literally? This is what the perceptual mind is, an accumulation of separating attack thoughts. Why would you want to be that when you could break free into heaven at any moment? You could only want something so strange if you're not conscious of what you really want. There we go. If you're not conscious of what you really want, something as silly as a game of men throwing around a pigskin ball can hide from you what you really want. So you can only want the unreal if you think it's real. That makes sense, right? You don't want something that you know is unreal. And so this process is always in seeing what is real and what is not. Because when you see that none of this is real, then you'll no longer want it. You'll no longer desire the grievance, even. The instant you realize you've been seeking the unreal, you'll give it up. And only when you have a direct experience of what reality actually is. And here's what we say almost every day: you must come into a direct experience of what reality actually is. In other words, you can't want what is until you release your tight grip on what isn't. Let me read that again. You can't really deeply want what is until you release your tight grip on what isn't. You can't want what's real until you let go of your tight grip on what is not real. That's the only thing a master teacher is here to let you go. Let go of isn't, what isn't real. So all of these grievances, even the playful ones that we hold about different teams or different groups or different people, whatever it might be, all of them have to be seen through, shined through with the light. Yesterday, when I was watching those videos, I was unwilling to let them go, but today I am. Today, I'm willing to release my need to see Packers fans suffer. Now, the next time they play the Bears, that need might come back. We'll see. So I tell you what, Penny, honey, let's start with you today, since I know that you can relate to this. You're I don't think you're a Packers fan, but I know that you are a football fan, and I could see you laughing the whole time. So you take it from here. We can't hear you, dear. Something has changed again in your vocal. Not yet, but I know Chris will get it.
There we go. How we
There we
doing?
go. We got it.
So, so funny enough, James, I started out by saying I grew up as a Packers fan, and then I thought, well, maybe it was a good thing he didn't hear me say that. As one of those kids, we went to Lambeau Field and we sat on metal bleachers, and it was so cold there in beautiful Wisconsin that your butt would freeze to the seat, right? And then, I was in Illinois. I was actually born and raised in Illinois, so you got to kind of root for the Bears. And I won't tell you which team I was rooting for on Sunday, but my team lost. It is a fine line, isn't it? Finding that place where that little human spot that says, ha, that's karma, when we see something happen for someone or around someone. But that's not me being mean. That's just me calling it. That's just karma, right? Mm, yeah, good try. And it is humorous in this particular situation, of course. And I just look better in green, James. That's really my deal. But when we ask the question, is it possible to hear only, only the voice of God? Yeah, that's a big ask. That's a big ask. Imagine for a moment any situation that has brought you angst. And like I like to say, if you don't have one, I have extras. Recently, something little, like the Bears winning. Bring something into your mind that has brought you angst. And now consider, is it possible to hear only the voice of God in that? Is it? I believe it is. It may take a moment, but only love, only God, and only now. Can I love here? And how about here? And how about here? And how about there? Can I love there? See, it is that insane egoic mind that'll keep reaching back there for sure and testing you and asking, can you love here? Here sometimes, right now, is a little easier, I think. But it's when we're trying to love there that trips me up a little. And by the way, I am wearing an apron. It was gifted to me this morning by Bethel. And there was a flood of emotion in this apron. And it came from there, the memories. So I'm not discing those memories. I'm not even discing the things that may have brought you angst there. The question is, can you love there? Can you hear only the voice of God in that? I believe with practice, it causes it to be easier to hear only the voice of God now. My grandma Maine would say, if you're looking to tomorrow for joy, you have borrowed against the joy of now. When you feel that little human self of wanting to see someone suffer, or maybe just have a tough day, or maybe just have karma visit them as I decide it should look. Perhaps what we're doing is we truly are reaching into the joy that is available to us, the realizing that is available to us. We're kind of getting in the way of that, I think, when we do that. I like to tell myself that here in Mexico, I've noticed that there is more space between thoughts. And I don't know if that's geographic. I have a feeling that's pretty local. Yeah. Right here. That when I see those grievances and I leave a little more space between those thoughts, they have less of an opportunity to create momentum. When I give more space to only the thought of God, I also have opened up to only the thoughts of God. From the divine mind that I believe that we are all one. From that divine mind where that wisdom and that love and that connection comes from. It's fun to poke fun at the Bears fans, at the Packers fans. It's fun. No real harm. Unless you dig deep enough and you notice, oh, that comes easy. I wonder why it's so easy to want to see someone suffer. And we create space between the thoughts so that the thoughts of God can be heard. And the accumulation of that separating attack thoughts, we don't want to let those go because I've built up a head of steam, as we say where I'm from. I've got some momentum going with this anger or this angst or this something that I don't think is right or fair. And I may be justified if I say it often enough, if I think it often. That momentum, that built up head of steam keeps us, that accumulation of those separating attack thoughts, that keeps us from being able to leave space for only thoughts of God. Because I'm running off with a story that I have created that makes me say, well, that's karma. And feeling that sense of human satisfaction about it. James, you're not alone. We've all done it. We're all doing it. I'm just sorry, Packers. But looking at it without blinking and seeing the space that we're leaving for the thoughts of God, this is where we will heal and begin to reconnect to our divine selves and to the divine self in each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny, honey. Yes, it's so subtle, isn't it? And I can remember well, the way that we claim our identity through things like who we root for or who we root against. I can remember when I first moved up to Wisconsin at Endeavor Academy. And since we were talking about the master teacher within this morning, I can remember when I first got there and I was standing in front of our teacher, who we sometimes referred to as the master teacher. And he was from Chicago, and then they all moved up to Wisconsin. And I also knew that he was a football fan. So as he's walking by, I looked at him and I said, "So now that you live in Wisconsin, are you still a Bears fan?" And you can see that he kind of resisted the question at first, but then he said, "Yeah, I'm still a Bears fan." And then the next morning in session, because he was rather uh, sometimes aggressive in teaching us the lessons that we needed to learn. And he grabbed me and he shook me and said, "How dare you to try and hold me to a perpetual association of being a Bears fan?" He had broken free from that, and I pulled him back. It's also funny how we like to join together in our grievances in order to hold on to them. You see, I'm also from Minnesota, and the Vikings hate the Packers pretty much as just as much as the Bears hate them. Bears fans. So Vikings and Bears, we have something we can agree about until we play each other. Anyway, it gets really ridiculous and very silly until we look at it and realize, no, just the voice for God, for love. That's the only thing I want. I only want to hear that voice. The rest can just slip away. So, Vicky, why don't you take us home?
Okay, Brother James. Thank you, Reverend Penny. Thanks, everybody. Well, I'll just give you the bottom line. And you just said it with dear one. What is really going on in our lives is what is it that we want? That's the bottom line. What do you really want? Do you want that mind of light, that awakened state where even here in time we live in peace and joy and we play through our days and we celebrate everything and we welcome everyone? Or do we want some little corner of something to take our breath away, our attention? It's that simple. The other point, so what is it you really want? When that's when you decide, and that's why we meet every day, because we reinforce the believability of the real world, of the invisible world, of the world of spirit that we are all one in. We reinforce that with each other every single day because we've been so hypnotized to the state of separation that there are two, not that we really are one. The other piece that comes into it, and I forget what I was going to say, but I know it was a good one. But basically, oh, this is it. Basically, when you get that what I really want is love and light and happiness. I want peace. I don't want to just say it, I really want it. The other thing, when what we do here every day is stop projecting out self-hatred. That's what a Bears fan and a Cubs fan and every fan you can think of. Of course, I do like the Red Sox, but but that's what it's all saying. It's saying I believe in the projection of self-hatred. This is how I hide my self-hatred. I have this team against this team. No more hiding our self-hatred. We're going to admit to everything. And we join together, take all the projections back, and say, okay, and dear one should have said to you, Jimmy, thank you for showing me where I'm still weak and loose and attached to this stuff. I want to be attached only to heaven. So that's it. No more self-abuse. That's the end of it. We are
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Full
Amen.
circle.
Time to let it all go. Even those little hidden pockets of grievances that we like to play with, we can even let those go. And this is going to be my test the next time the Packers play the Bears to see if I can root for the Packers. When I do that, that's when you know I'm ready to pop into heaven. So watch for it. And to that, we say, Amen, 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 y punto. Period. Have a beautiful day. We love you all.